Hey everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube, or welcome back. If this is your 8th The Crowded Room episode review, hope you're doing well, hope you're staying safe out there. I was not expecting this episode to be trending. I didn't watch it on the premiere date. I was a little busy. I wasn't even in the right mood to review that episode yesterday, so I skipped on it. But I'll just say this: when I was on Twitter, on my brief times on my phone, I saw the comments. I saw like, what the hell is going on? I saw one image from the show and I'm like, oh no, I forgot to put the connection together. I'm pretty sure I thought of it in my head last week or 2 weeks ago, but I was like, oh no, this episode was just like, I like to call this the reality episode, where like, I said this last, I was like, I wish we get an episode where we just check in on the, on how things were actually like, in reality. Because remember, we had the story tell us through Danny's perspective, thinking that all of his personalities were real human beings, and then going back into the whole, like now the second half, where no, it's not. They were all personality, all figments of Danny's imagination / the amalgamation, and then eventually representation of what personality he needs for that moment. Now to go back and to see the actual events untold, it's a bit cringy, because again, like, when you're viewing it in reality, like, you're gonna have to like realize that some of these are a little cringy and some of these are like, it makes sense, but he was just misunderstood. And some scenes were cool, some scenes were like, it was like it hit or miss. But overall, I think kudos to Tom Holland for like, being evil. We got a sneak peek of this last week, but like this episode was like, we were just getting like all of him in like the different forms, getting scenes we didn't see before. As, we come ahead, where like, Danny as a character is trying to figure out himself without his personalities, but at the same time, we're also going back and seeing how has the personalities really defended Danny, and how does that like lead into his upcoming trial, and what are the stakes there as like, we approach the final quarter of the show. So that being said, let's go through the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of The Crowded Room. So I want to say we begin with, so we begin with a detective from the city. I think it's the same one that Rye was, sleeping around with. I completely forgot. It's been a long week. He goes up to the town where Danny's at, and also where his stepdad and his mom are. He goes to the local bar. He finds the stepdad there getting his usual 5 pints a night, and they're making a little small chit chat. He's also noticing the gunshot graze that Danny caused on him in the first episode, and once it's starting to realize with the stepdad that, okay, the city police that is connected to my stepson is here in town, and they ironically found me. Something's up here. This isn't a coincidence. Later that night, the detective calls in another local detective back from the city, letting him know, like, yeah, this guy, like, he's got some sneaky suspicions. He's not fully good over here. Like, definitely there is something here to worth investigate that would give Danny at least some credence to his alibi, that this wasn't something that was randomly selected. There was an actual reason for him to do what he had to do. So then we cut over back to the room where Danny, for the first time, is actually having a legitimate conversation with Fry, talking about the personalities. And we skipped over a lot of stuff between their conversation, where like, Danny was fully understanding what multiple personality disorder is. What does that mean? How did it come up? And right now, what Ryan wants to know is like, when did this all happen? When did these specific personalities emerge? And Danny comes up with the fact that, like, yeah, when he got beat up with the kids back in the first episode, that's when the landlord, I forgot his name already. They said it a couple times in this episode, but I already forgot. That was the first time he appeared. Adriana wasn't like that far back. Jack was many years ago, when like he just needed a real father figure in his life, so he created Jack. His friends were like, he doesn't remember when his friends were created. They were just like, they just came out one day, and it was like a natural transition for him, that like it wasn't something that like he really like needed, like like there wasn't a moment, like a emotional moment. It was probably just like, it just happened, like it was just created because like he just needed some sort of companionship, so to speak. So yeah, so they're still developing that, and we're getting more like first with the landlord, him like seeing like Danny actually having the prowess to like defend himself. So we got that scene. We also got the scene where like I was imagining this in my head, like how was Danny like really with certain lines, like how did he face off against his stepdad, when we first saw him like move by himself out to the abandoned house, and it was actually like okay, that was one of those scenes like it wasn't a seamless transition. It was like it didn't really look well in the Danny perspective. It looked better in the actual like the figmentation perspective, in my opinion. But again, like when you're doing these sort of scenes, like sometimes it's never going to be like the perfect recreation or like the perfect what it was supposed to be. It's not supposed to be. I believe from that point onwards we get to so Danny and Rye's session ends, so Danny is by himself in the prison for the next 3 days. Rye only warns him like you're back right now, but like right now you need to keep the other personalities out. We need to make like real progress with you, so like try to keep them out. Don't call on them. Don't like attempt to like get yourself in situations when you need them. Just stay isolated as much as you can until our next session. So they split up. And then I believe I want to say, does Rye head back home? I don't believe so. I know we have a scene with Rye and and Danny's lawyer, where Danny's lawyer is like telling her about the update of like, yes, we got the stepdad under some good suspicion that hopefully if we can prove this in court that A, he's a slimy piece of shit, and B, that Danny had actual motive to just attempt to attack this one man, it might be enough to like lower down the crime, the severity rate, lower down the punishment. He could possibly go from 50 years in prison to 5 years in prison, but Rye's like, no, we can't put this guy in prison. He won't survive in there. The personalities like probably won't even come to him anymore. He's all alone. Like he will not survive. But the lawyer's like, look, I understand what you're trying to say. Like, but here's the thing: the multiple personality disorder thing is not going to work out in court. People will just look at him as crazy. It might even be worse for him. Our entire case might be thrown out because of that. And second of all, 50 years is much better. Is not 5 years much better than 5. He'll still have a life. He can still live a good amount of his 20s before instead of like coming out when he's like 60 and old. Well, not old, but like more like more older age. So he's definitely just like pleading to her like just take the victory, take the win. As long as nothing happens, as long as he has no public outcry in court, as long as everything goes our way, he could possibly like get a much lesser sentence. So that's all what we need to do. But Rye's, of course, not satisfied with this at all. She's not. She's just looking out for him. Definitely viewing him as like the mother that he needs right now in a way. Because I feel like the episode where like I don't know if it was the last episode or 2 episodes ago where Rye was crying in the car over Danny admitting either the murder of his brother or like of the presumed sexual attacks he received. Like it's still not confirmed 100% like what it really was. To the extent, but what I could, admit to is that there definitely was something there that like we're not being aware of. But anyway, she does see him as like, I need to protect him. Like, I have a son, she has a son, and she sees the value of like that he needs someone to like really care for him right now, especially now. So Danny's trying to survive prison on his own without any of the personalities, just being himself. He's very timid, very shy, just keeps to himself, trying to like, get himself out of trouble. One of the inmates talks to him about like, hey, where's Jack coming back? Jack was good people. He knows how to play a good game of craps. I would love to like, see him again. And Dennis is like, I don't think he's, I don't know. I don't think he's going to come back for a while. Then Danny gets a visitor, and it's the guy that, Adriana was with back in the first episode, or not the first episode, the second episode. And then, obviously, he's just telling Danny that, like, yeah, I saw your picture in the paper, and I also saw the connection with the multiple personalities, possibility, and I put it together, and I'm like, oh, that would explain a lot of things between how me and Adriana were. And then that's when it was dawning on me, it's like, oh, shit. Danny was Adriana, or Adriana was Danny, and I'm just looking at myself, oh, no, that scene in the bathroom, I'm like, oh no. So yeah, and also kudos to like, this is what I said before the start, where like there were certain scenes that like they were done perfectly, and then there's some scenes that were like kind of cringy. This scene where Adriana was going into the club, and then that's when her entire segment of the episode started. That moment where like we're seeing the wall, it's such a perfect seamless transition from like Adriana to Adriana. Like it's really seamless. The camera shots, just the movement, how how Tom and Adriana's actions worked. It's like it was so seamless that like there were moments where like it looked like Adriana, but it was really Danny, and it's like that's honestly a really well choreographed scene. I'll admit that. And then we got the scene in the interpretation of like Danny being there, and then this is where the moment where like he, where Danny was was remembering where like they had sex in the bathroom, where like indicating like yeah they were doing it. Like there was an actual shot of like this is like this was the thing I saw on Twitter where like Tom Holland was taking back shots, and this was like because fun little aside, not like a fun little aside, this is how the internet reacts. So his girlfriend Zendaya is doing a new movie called Champions, and when the trailer came out for it, there's a scene in the trailer where like two guys, the two male leads are with Zendaya are gonna have sex with her, and a lot of people were like saying like, oh my god, Tom Holland should be so jealous right now. He should be like first of all, guys, it's they're acting. I mean, yeah, Tom and Zendaya like magically fall in love, but like they're still in love. So I'm pretty sure like nothing happened here. It was just like them acting in the scene. That really is about it. And they were viewing this as like this is the revenge scene. And I'm like, guys, it's wasn't even related, just hysterically timed out. So yeah, but like Danny's like, I don't remember that. Like I don't remember anything I was when I was Adriana. I remember some pieces. I know you're a nice dude and everything, but that's all I really remember about you because Adriana was in control. And yeah, and but the boyfriend's just like he misses Adriana. He wishes that he could talk to her right now, but like of course Danny can't summon the personalities right now. So he's like, I'm pretty sure she does miss you, but that's really it about it. I want to say then we have a scene with the stepdad and his mom back at the house where like the stepdad's approaching the mom of like, hey, was there anyone that asked any questions about Danny recently, anything at all? And she says like, nope, all the times have either been with you or just I kept the same story. So I'm like, nothing really to report there. But like the stepdad like knows something's up. He's just like he's got that sneaky suspicion that something's gonna happen. Like he just knows about it. I want to say like I don't know the exact chain of orders. I want to say that we get to oh no yeah we don't get back to Danny and Rye for a while, but Danny is having a scene in the cafeteria. It's totally just like has that like panel shot to like when Danny was in high school. And he was getting bullied by the local teens, and then like this is like the same way where like the prison guards, not the prison guards, the prisoners are doing the same thing to Danny, like teasing him about the voices, teasing him about his alternate personalities, and just like trying to like make a joke out of it. And Danny's getting aggressive. He's like he really wants to unleash the landlord and just kick all their asses, but he's like nope, can't do that right now. Like I gotta stay put. I gotta stay perfectly a-okay. That's all he's got to do. So I want to say beyond that moment, we get back to... Oof, where do we get here? I want to say we have another scene. No, that's when like one of the detectives drop over the subpoena for Danny's stepdad to come to court for the trial. And this is when like Danny's stepdad was like, okay, now I definitely know something's not like, they're going to try and turn this on me. I'm like, that ain't going to happen. So we'll come back to him later. Then we get back to Danny and Rye. Having a scene together where like Rye's continuing like picking up where they left off about why were these personalities made, when did they show up and everything, how does this all connect to everything. So again, Jack was just a father figure. He just needed a father figure, and of course for some reason in order for the personalities to explain to Danny logically and naturally how do I get to release this information out to you, like telling you what you need, but without like alerting you that like you have this disorder. Jack like subconsciously, like the landlord and the Jack personality subconsciously told him, you need to go to London, you need to find your dad, you need to go to him and find him. And then that's when they were able to drop all the knowledge that Danny needs to like eventually get to where he is now. So that worked. As for his friends, again, it was just seamless. And again, like getting the scenes where like, Danny was, supposedly with his friends, and then in reality, he was just by himself. Like, so seeing all those scenes where like, he's just by himself, he thinks he's talking to someone else. It actually kind of has a little bit of an impact where like, just at a feel of like how lonely he is, that he has no one around him. Like, he's just conjuring these things up to like give himself a little bit of comfort in this like very cold life right now, where like no one's really his friend, no one's really on his side, and like there's no support system for him, there's no family, there's no like real friends for him, and like all he has is the people in his mind, the personalities. Then going into Adriana, or like again he admits that like, yeah, Adriana was mostly his catalyst to have sex. She's the one who normally has sex with everyone, I guess, male and female. So we get another scene with that, with the boyfriend, with the boyfriend again. And then we get another scene where in the perspective with the issue with the drug dealer. And I'm like, I should have like, there was a hint about this in the second episode, I believe, where like we get a split second of like Danny was the one with the gun, instead of the landlord. So that was a little bit confused. Maybe it was just a misleading thing, but no, that was the actual event where like, when the guy broke in and Danny ran away, the landlord like basically like in a metaphorical way, like took Danny aback, and then he took over as the primary personality. And then, that's when like, the rest of the scene happened where like, it was actually Danny, the one, beating him up, and one like, fighting him with a gun. And then seeing the other perspective where we see the girl he was interested in, like watching this whole thing, like she didn't watch the whole thing, like, seeing the guy get beat up, but like she saw like Danny in a different perspective, in a different light, that what scared her away from him. So again, like all these scenes are like, like again, like this was all well shot. This was all well impacted to like, just indicate how scary Danny was as a person. Because like you never really know who was in the driver's helmet sometimes. Like unless you really knew him, you didn't know. And then like, another uncomfortable, well, not an uncomfortable scene, but like another scene where like, we didn't see before, like, where I was just asking a question about how like, yeah, so what about the drug dealer then? Because like, if your two friends were like personalities, and if the personality, one of the personalities wasn't there to save you, what really happened? Because if you remember in the second episode, the third episode, when Danny got the gun for Adriana, or got the gun for Adriana, he went to the apartment. He kind of like, very much begrudgingly, admitted to suck his dick, and then when like, eventually Danny went to like to this very like, and again, like the way that episode was framed was like a little bit off, and now like seeing the real perspective, we're like, no, Danny was just willingly, he willingly sucked his dick, and Danny didn't want to talk about that. Which personality was in control? Probably Adriana, but still like, just seeing that he admitted to himself like, yeah, I did what I had to do, but I'm like, but we didn't get the whole scene. We didn't get that. Danny didn't cut out there because like he didn't want to like fully remember that, because I'm pretty sure he was like a little bit more conscious than he would admit to be during that moment. And then that's when the first time where like Danny actually got angry, but he didn't release any of his personalities, which is a good step. That like, you're thinking for yourself. You don't need any other help to express these emotions. So definitely Danny's on a pretty good pace there. I know also, yeah, by the end of their meeting, Rye gives Danny a suit for his upcoming trial. And again, another heartfelt moment between them where like Danny was like, this was my first suit. Like my mom never bought me a suit. No one ever bought me a suit. Like this is my first suit. And it's really sweet. It really is sweet. They're like, again, they kind of form this like, in a way, a mother-son connection kind of, or just like a guardianship to a child type of thing. That's kind of like the vibe I'm getting off them. And it's actually pretty sweet. It's actually really sweet to see that. So yeah, this is where kind of we're starting to wind down a little bit here, where Danny gets a visit again by the boyfriend, and he's just giving him like a little memento about their time together, and like just talking more about like their time together. And even I don't know I forgot what he gives him specifically, but it's enough to trigger Adriana again, and she's like, okay, I'll take control for like a few seconds. And she takes over. She says kind of like a goodbye to him, like, thank you, I love you, and like, thank you for like, viewing me as like someone you needed. And I felt for the guy. Like, that was his, in a way, a love for him, and like she had to go. She had to leave. And I felt that was really like something that I didn't know we needed, like a little bit of closure. It definitely makes last episode a little bit more better on impact. So definitely, I think the writers knew what they were doing here. So definitely it worked out there. However, on the bad side of things, we get back over, and apparently the stepmom, Rye gets called over back by the lawyer to let her know that like, yeah, so after we served the subpoena to the stepdad, he went over to the prosecution. He claims, I have evidence that Danny has been violated way many times beforehand. I got like proof. I got witnesses. that, you know, will corroborate my story to basically put Danny more like, you know, Danny's like, again, it's the stepdad knowing he did very shitty things, but he doesn't want to pay the price. And if Danny's the one like in like the negative light right now, he's going to put all the blame on him so he can get out of it, which again, very shitty. But that's the thing about people. People think about themselves. He's going to think, how do I get out of this? Not how Danny's going to get out of this. How am I going to get out of this? I'm not going to admit to anything I did wrong because he doesn't want to give up his life. So he's willing to throw Danny under the bus. So now, right now, you know, if what he says pans out, like if everything, you know, that he's about to say comes to light in court, that's it. Danny is done. He's not getting his you know, a lesser sentence. He's going to go straight to a 50. So now they're basically fucked. Meanwhile, Danny kind of is playing a little bit defensive here. We're back in prison. He purposely fakes an injury, gets called over to the medical center. He steals a paperclip and he takes it back to his cell, and he's going to do something with it just in case, like a little security measure for himself. What does that entirely mean? What is he actually going to do with it? I really don't know. I don't know what you can do with a paperclip defense-wise. But that was it for this week's episode of The Crowded Room. So for me, I really liked this episode. I really did. Definitely, I mentioned last week was a bit of a decline for me. And it was still a good episode last week, but like this episode was like a little bit more better than that. I don't think it's outpacing episode 6. I think that's the peak of where the show is right now. 7 went down a little bit, and he kind of like is in between 7 and 6, if that makes sense. But this was really good to kind of like, you know, get what we want to get to see things from a different perspective, get to see the events, how they actually occurred, and, you know, majority of the things, you know, paid off as what it was. Getting to see, you know, the stepdad finally, like, you know, put on the offensive against Danny just to protect himself was like, it's delivering the stakes we need. Because, like, again, this is a limited series. I have no idea how the hell it's going to end. There's no season 2. There's nothing. This is like, these next 2 episodes are it. That's the end of the story. So yeah, definitely like them playing planning, like, you know, okay, here's the real opposition here. How are they going to get through it, if they can get through it, and what does that mean next? But to see, you know, Danny like take the limelight, seeing Tom Holland's skills in action, the closure with Adriana and the boyfriend, and fully like mostly now understanding everything Danny's been through in life, it definitely makes things a little bit more clearer. It's just at the moment the big question is Danny gonna get out of this? Is he gonna be able to get that 5-year sentence instead of 50-year sentence? Who knows? Who really knows? But I'm enjoying the ride. Definitely this episode made me feel the most connected between Danny and Rye, that they actually did develop this kinship and that she does genuinely care about him among everything else that's been shitty in his life. So definitely everything I feel like is working out for the best, and I can't wait to see how, you know, as the last 2 episodes unfold, how that's all gonna wrap up from there. But for me, I'm gonna give this episode 2 thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this week's episode of The Crowded Room. I would love to have the discussion with you down below. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's to Do from ActionX, reviewing every episode in The Crowded Room. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's to Do besides our Crowded Room episode reviews. Currently, right now, we are doing Nancy Drew Season 4 episode reviews each and every week after brand new episodes on the CW. We're also starting I believe next week, we're going to have our How I Met Your Father Season 2 review, definitive edition, so stay tuned for that. And then I believe the week afterwards, we're going to start our Heel Season 2 episode review, so stay tuned for that. So a thing about that is that the Crowded Room finale comes out the same day as the Heel Season 2 premiere. So we will be doing we will be going to, so Heels is going to come first because, sad to say, I switched my cable provider, so I have a different ways to watch Stars now. So our Crowded Room reviews will be slightly delayed even further. Heels will be taking the primary time slot. Crowded Room will be pushed back a little bit for the final episode review, and then also the whole definitive review for that show. So stay tuned until that. So next week, normal. The week after that, and the big review, that's going to be its own separate thing. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring the bell, follow us on social media, and do all that jazz. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And as always, peace out.